Hello, we are with Professor Daniel Asmar. He is from the American University of Beirut from Lebanon. He just came here yesterday and he just gave us a very, very nice speech on the connection between culture and education. We had some very interesting thoughts shared by you. So could we elaborate a little bit on your basic ideas on that speech?
Okay. First of all, thank you for hosting me here, and thank you for inviting me to this beautiful city of Delphi. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you. So the gist, if you like, of the idea, or the main idea of education and cultural heritage. We all know that it is very important for us to preserve our cultural heritage. It's very important for us to find the mediums to educate people about our cultural heritage. Because the more we know about cultural heritage, the more we're going to feel it's important, the more we're going to value what we have, and the more we're going to preserve it. Examples are many around the world today, and in the past 10 years, if you like, of the destruction of cultural heritage because of ignorance. So this is something which is known. But let me take you on a different route and think about how about if cultural heritage can help us get educated, and get educated from primary classes from the outset, when we're grade school all the way through high school and even university.
I suppose we are not talking about just history education.
No, I'm talking about an example I gave in the presentation is about the generation and the understanding of Roman and Greek theaters. And inside of the theaters, there's so many different subjects that are interrelated, and those subjects can be unraveled and pulled out of the content, this cultural content, to help students understand primary ideas such as physics, mathematics, history of course, but geography, even maybe medical issues, all the way up to, well, of course the fine arts as well, and all the way up to maybe architecture, engineering, and similar faculties or similar topics that we can think about at higher levels.
So how can you envision all that endeavor?
This is a very good question, a difficult one as well, and I left this as an open question in the end. The easiest one, of course, is to develop games. And these could be educational games, and in the games you ask the player to be able to solve a puzzle, and in that puzzle the student has to do some individual research or some group type effort to be able to uncover the solution to the result. And this is a challenging problem, and when we say challenging, it means they're going to have to work hard to be able to find a solution, and that's why people like games, is to be able to solve these challenges. Now, let me give you an example about what I meant about using mathematics, for instance, from the design of the theater. In the theater itself, there's a difference between, fundamental difference in the construction of a Greek versus a Roman theater. In a Roman theater, the building blocks of or the geometric primitives that are used to be able to construct the audience set that you have there, and the rest, even the front of the scene, uses triangles, equilateral triangles, in a given disposition that allows them to place the region where the audience is sitting and the region where the stage is. In Greek theaters, on the other hand, they use squares to be able to generate these squares that are inscribed within a circle to be able to generate this separation or develop this architecture. Now, if we take these squares and triangles and circles and all this information that has to be used to generate them, and you ask students that are in a primary class to be able to, first of all, at the simplest, regenerate them. Draw me instead of just drawing a triangle and knowing the properties of an equilateral triangle and seeing the angles that are subtended within a circle, ask the students to be able to draw the theater itself, and at least those portions of the theater. So instead of just drawing the triangle, now the triangle is within context. And I believe this context is going to give the students a much deeper understanding that's going to stick in their brains, and they're going to understand the relationships between triangles and circles and squares, and how these fit into place to create a geometry which makes some sense.
So it's actually like getting storytelling into the courses of the classroom.
It's giving context.
Yes,
it's giving context.
It's giving
so
context.
Instead of having a square, my son is 10 years old, and he has to last year or the year before, he had to understand the properties of an equilateral triangle, understand the properties of a square. And to do that without context, he did it and he understood it, but I don't think it stuck. But if they were doing that to be able to generate something, there's an outcome of learning how to do that, I believe that would give you a much deeper understanding. And at the same time, on the flip side, they're learning all about our culture. They're learning that our culture is important. They're learning what is involved in the culture, and they will respect our culture more. And from the lower classes all the way up, they're getting educated on the values of culture, and the culture is not something that just pops up like this.
So we have goals going both ways.
Yes.
Supporting cultural
education
and education.
And it's supporting the
time.
culture itself at the
Okay.
same time. Do you understand?
But you, at the end, you put some open questions. What about that?
Yes, the open questions are how? What's the mechanism of embedding this relationship between education and cultural heritage? Should we be starting developing textbooks? Textbooks that show this relationship directly and having students adopt these textbooks. And of course, there's going to be resistance to that from the ministries of education, higher education. Are they going to accept the books? Should there be deeper studies and pedagogy in the effect of using these books rather than using the classical books that we have? So that's one question: is where should we adopt them? Should we be restricting this relationship into gaming itself? Should we be developing MOOCs, massive open online courses, where the restrictions are a lot less, but then you worry about accreditation and getting credit for the courses that you're taking?
Well, these questions seem very valid. Okay. Thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
for having
much.
me.